How's everything going there? Good morning, afternoon, / evening, whenever you're watching this. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP, and welcome to the episode 86 of the Pitchside Podcast. Follow his social media site, the Pitchside Pod on Instagram, like, share, comment on the YouTube version, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive the updates from the episodes of the podcast and all the content on the channel, and listen to it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Join us for more. You're welcome. Before we talk about the main portion of the episode, which is of course going to be a discussion about Manchester City, let's kickstart things into Germany and the DFB Pokal quarter-final. 2 games were supposed to take place yesterday, but one of them wasn't, of course. Regensburg versus Werder Bremen was postponed due to a coronavirus outbreak in the second division team. Of course, the game was going to be rescheduled to a later date. As for the second game, which is of course the bigger game, there is 2 ties out of the 4 in the quarterfinals that are really interesting in the Bundesliga. One is taking place today in RB Leipzig-Wolfsburg, and the second took place yesterday between Borussia M'Gladbach and Borussia Dortmund. And this was awkward for Marco Rose, who's of course joining Borussia Dortmund later down the line this summer. Of course, it took 66 minutes for Borussia Dortmund to score the goal, but I think, the game overall, Borussia Dortmund didn't enter it in the best of ways. Borussia Mönchengladbach were better for the first 15-20 minutes. It looked like it's coming together in a big way. It looked like there is trouble coming for Borussia Dortmund. Nico Schulz was introduced in the 5th minute as a replacement for Rafael Guerreiro, and that could rule him out of the Saturday Der Klassiker in the Bundesliga, which is a big shame and is going to be a big miss for Borussia Dortmund, losing someone like Rafael Guerreiro. Not just a good left back in the back, but also, more importantly, I would say, a offensive solution that is just amazing overall. I mean, as an overall player, he delivers crosses. His style of play as a left back is just amazing. An overall solution that could be lost on Saturday in Der Klassiker. In the first half, it was mostly Mönchengladbach, really. No real attempts for Borussia Dortmund. And I think this was, I don't know down to what was that, but it was probably a good choice from Edin Terzic just to start in that way. Try to conserve the energy for the second half, potentially. And, probably they watched the game against Leipzig and realized, well, we should defend well in the first half, and then we just bounce on them on the counters. And that is what happened in the second half. Mönchengladbach went even higher up the pitch in the start of the second half, and they get caught completely out by a counter. I mean, it was just brilliant. It was just brilliant football. Jadon Sancho from a pass of Marco Reus, and the first pass from Morey, the right back, is just incredible to break the lines of Borussia Mönchengladbach. And then, of course, Jadon Sancho with brilliant finishing in the end to make it 1-0 for Borussia Dortmund. They qualify to the semi-finals. They book a place there in the semi-finals of the DFB Pokal. Potentially, they could, of course, they're going to face the side, of course, from the Regensburg versus Werder Bremen game until that game gets rescheduled, of course. As we mentioned, 2 games take place today in that round. The quarter-final, there is RV Essen, qualified over by Leverkusen, facing Holstein Kiel, who, of course, facing Holstein Kiel in the cup, who managed to beat Bayern in the round of 16. Of course, that was just one of the biggest shockers of that competition, if not the biggest shocker in the last couple of weeks. They managed to eliminate Bayern in the round of 16, and also eliminated Darmstadt in the round of 8. Of course, the second game is RB Leipzig versus Wolfsburg. That's the bigger game of the 2. Obviously, Leipzig would want to book a place into the semi-final as it's a trophy. I think, with Bayern now out of the cup, probably it's going to be going down between Borussia Dortmund, maybe, who's going to be winning the game between Leipzig and Wolfsburg, as well as Regensburg, Werder Bremen. Werder Bremen might be involved if they qualify, and also the outsider, I think, in the RV Essen Holstein Kiel game winner. But overall, back to the Dortmund-Borussia Mönchengladbach game. This was awkward for Marco Rose. I mean, losing against the side that is going to be coaching in the next season is quite interesting. But obviously for Dortmund, the fact that they managed to win and also finishing the game with 10 men after Mahmoud Dahoud got sent off in the 92nd minute is really interesting, I think, for Borussia Dortmund. Potentially they could miss Dahoud as well for the red card, because the red card decision doesn't go for the cup and for the league in Germany. Congratulations, of course, in the end for Borussia Dortmund, and good luck for Borussia Mönchengladbach for next season, because it looks like they're out of everything. It looks like they want to reach Europe in the Bundesliga, and it's going to be interesting to see how they will deal with the rest of the season and with next season without Marco Rose. Supposedly, we're going to have 2 games in the Serie A. Yesterday, it was supposed to be Lazio versus Torino, but of course, for COVID reasons, this game was postponed. Lazio were on the pitch, of course, at the Olimpico, but the Torino squad didn't show up because the local government told them to quarantine. This was a similar situation to, of course, the game between Juventus and Napoli. We remember earlier in the season where Napoli squad didn't arrive because of the local government's quarantine rules. Juventus initially won 3-0 by the ruling of the law, but then of course the decision got rejected, and Napoli appealed it, so the Italian Federation sort of accepted it, and now the game is going to be rescheduled later down the line, of course, for Juventus, and of course Lazio Torino will definitely be rescheduled, at least at the moment, if they don't go with the same decision that they made for Juve Napoli. And speaking of Juve, needed 62 minutes to get going against Spezia. I don't know. Really, I don't know. I mean, it's a 3-0 victory, but if you look at just look at the score and say this game was easy for Juve, I tell you not. Spezia had more possession. They went to the Allianz Stadium and had more possession than Juve, right? That's for one. 2, in the first half, Juve was so slow, despite the fact that they had, despite they had a lot of attempts. None of them were really threatening until the last 10 or 5 minutes, literally, like when Cristiano Ronaldo hit the post, and I think Kulusevski had a chance later on. That is when Juventus started getting more dangerous. And in the second half, it was Spezia having more possession in the first 5 to 10 minutes before Juventus get going, and before Pirlo realizes that, okay, we need some substitutions here. He takes out McKennie and Bernardeschi, and I was worried really when he took out McKennie and Bernardeschi, because I thought those substitutions would not work. I always think of McKennie as this important player of Juve, and I always believe that he will be one day, eventually, because he's now a permanent Juve player. Alvaro Morata and Bernardeschi were introduced, and eventually they were the ones who cracked the code for Spezia, for Bernardeschi with the assist and Morata with the goal, in a goal that was checked for VAR for no reason. I mean, I don't know. The referee thought it was offside, but it was clearly onside. Federico Bernardeschi was not in offside position. 1-0 for Juve inside 62 minutes. Then, 9 minutes later, Federico Chiesa adds the second goal for Juventus, and from there on, of course, from that point, it was all Juventus. Cristiano Ronaldo got his goal in the 89th minute. It was weird because that was a counter-attack goal. Imagine you sitting in the back and defending a counter, or playing a counter against Spezia. And for reasons that nobody would understand, Spezia went high up the pitch, left themselves too much exposed against Juventus. In a game where they're supposed to just take the draw and run at the very best of cases, they went higher up the pitch, they opened themselves up, and they left themselves exposed for a counter against Juve. With all of Juve's bad sort of, the criticism that they get, all the criticism that Juventus could get, all the, the skepticism about their play, the way they do it, the fact that Pirlo doesn't have a proper shape, doesn't have a proper style of play, at least. I mean, he has the shape, but he doesn't have the style of play to accommodate to it. He doesn't have some sort of proper identity as a coach. He has the 4-4-2 now as a shape. It looks like a pretty decent deal. He had to play Alexandro as a centre back today, which not the best of things really, and against a better team that would have been dangerous. Starting with Rabiot and Bentancur, and as I mentioned, just yesterday I said that Rabiot and Bentancur are not exactly the best midfield duo you could have on your side. McKennie is good as usual. Chiesa had a decent performance. Cristiano Ronaldo, again, if he doesn't score, he doesn't contribute much to the game. And you have a general sense of slow nature in Juventus. But for all of that, Spezia going high and playing 4-3-3, by the way, playing a 4-3-3, leaving themselves too high against Juventus, that was a suicide. And you pay for it. Even against this slow Juventus, you can pay for it because they have someone like Cristiano Ronaldo. And they still have a lot of quality compared to you. So this victory, I think, is important for Juve in terms of morale. It boosts their morale, a little bit more. Gives them 3 points that are really good, I think, in the title race, or at least in the top 4 race, if the title race seems slightly out of contention. I mean, 7 points between them and Inter. It needs a lot of consistency from them, and it needs also a lot of inconsistency from Inter, which doesn't seem likely at the moment, considering the no distraction nature of the rest of the season that it's going to be having for AC Milan. Probably they could have a better chance in ousting AC Milan as second place rather than beating Inter Milan for the title, because it looks, for all intents and purposes, Inter Milan are not going to be dropping in form at the moment because, again, no distractions. They have a full week to prepare. Conte has now set himself up with a proper lineup, fit squad, and completely different idea. And they have the motivation, obviously, to win the Serie A title, leading the table in this very, very crucial period of the season. Is something that Inter Milan are not gonna easily relinquish. Of course, the Serie A fixtures continue today with Sassuolo, Napoli, AC Milan, Udinese, Genoa, Sampdoria, the derby, Cagliari, Bologna, Fiorentina gonna face an AC Roma. That's interesting. Atalanta, Crotone, Benevento, Verona, and on Thursday it will be Parma facing Inter Milan. For a while, it looked like the game between Man City and Wolves in the Premier League is going to be a little bit hard, particularly after the equaliser from Wolves in the 61st minute, but eventually the power of Man City, it was never in doubt that they're going to be winning, even though it looked like there might be a spanner in the works for Man City. 3 goals in the last 10 minutes, including 2 in the 90-plus minutes between Riyad Mahrez and Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus with a brace on the day, then Donker with the own goal for the opener for Man City, and then, of course, he and Conor Cody managed to equalise in the 61st minute. Wolves created a couple of opportunities for themselves. They had a couple of chances, and for just the slightest of moments, you thought, well, Man City might, or the old Man City might creep back here. The Man City that is just, reckless, goes forward a lot, gets himself exposed in the back, and do not care about covering ground a lot. They almost got exposed and caught on a couple of opportunities for Adama Traore, but the finishing was lacking for Wolves, and eventually Man City overpowered them. Gabriel Jesus scored the second, and from there was no return for Man City. 4-1 it ended. Definitely a game that was going one side for most of it. Apart from the couple of minutes, like 5 or 6 minutes after the goal, really, for Wolves, where Wolves had a couple of opportunities, like proper chances of 3-on-2, numerical superiority of 3-on-2, 4 against 3. Like, Man City, for a little while, they were quite exposed in the back, and they're quite shook, I think, by the goal from Wolves, which came from pretty much from the best chance that they had, and the one true chance that they had the whole game in the 61st minute. There was their first shot on target, by the way, and their only in the game overall was the one from Conor Cody. A great header finish, a great ball played by João Moutinho, and just like in the game against West Ham, long balls seem to be somehow bothering Man City now, despite the fact that they have 2 of the best centre-halves in the Premier League and in the world at the moment, in Laporte, and more particularly Ruben Dias, but somehow they didn't deal with that. The marking was pretty poor on that on that set piece, and Conor Cody managed to head the ball in for an equaliser. And again, just for the slightest of moments after that goal, you felt that Wolves might turn this around, and there was a lot of bad memories for Man City, pretty much appearing and creeping, the double of last season, of course, particularly the remontada that Wolves did in the Molineux from 2-1 to 3-2 thanks to Adama Traore, and, but in that game, it was Benjamin Mendy left back. In this one, it's João Cancelo, more quality in that. And definitely more poise for the Portuguese. It was a great performance, by the way, from Man City. Riyad Mahrez was the best player, I think, on the pitch. He deserved his goal later on for his overall performance. Raheem Sterling wasn't hitting as much. Kevin De Bruyne wasn't hitting as much. Probably still feeling the effect of returning from an injury and trying to feel his way back into the side. But no worries about Man City in the league because they're 15 points ahead of Manchester United. 65 for Man City, 50 for United, and, there's no worries about them losing the league, really, or losing, even a normal match. The strongest defence in the league by a big margin, 17 goals conceded only in the 29-match period, or the 27-match period that they played, 56 goals, strongest attack and strongest defence, and the best team, and the best squad. I mean, all the superlatives you could throw in the Premier League, I think the positive ones are really for Man City at the moment. It's just a worry that the old Man City might creep in the Champions League, because that is where Man City failed in the last couple of years, realistically, and particularly under Guardiola. I think it became more bombastic of a way of going out of the Champions League, and I know maybe some Man City fans would hear this would say, but this season is different. We said that we said that in the couple of seasons ago. We said that the season before that. Or we say that almost every single season where Man City just finished the Premier League, just hacked the Premier League pretty much, decided since January, and just go into the knockout stage of the Champions League and managed to fumble their lines. They managed to botch their chances. They managed to squander their opportunities and go out of the Champions League in a bombastic fashion. They went out against Liverpool, losing home and away 3-1, 5-1 on aggregate. And then they went out to Lyon and went out to Tottenham. And in a crazy old game, of course, was that, but still they went out to Tottenham. And then, of course, they go out to Lyon last season in the quarterfinal in a game where obviously they thought about Bayern Munich more than they thought about Lyon. So clearly, Man City could still fumble their lines in the Champions League. And, maybe the argument would be that with the league being pretty much done and dusted, they could focus now on the Champions League. But that is the problem, I think, with Guardiola. When he gets to focus on something, he focuses on it probably to his own detriment as a coach. He overthinks, and that is quite a well-known fact, that Pep Guardiola overthinks what he's doing on those big occasions. And obviously he's going to get past Mönchengladbach, because there's no way in hell that Mönchengladbach are going to make a remontada. No way in any shape or form that they could return, that they could make anything significant in the Champions League. So it's just all about Man City in the Premier League now, settling the deal. And they should be thinking what they do in the Champions League. They should be thinking about the Champions League, not overthinking, because that is what looks like the point. Because they still have competitions to play for. They still have the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. There is the potential of a quadruple, but they could end up with one or two titles at the very best if they don't make it in the Champions League. And it's still a very likely scenario, because they pretty much had the same squad last year when they were defeated by Lyon. Yes, the difference, it would be the difference that they didn't have Dias and what have you, but it was pretty much the same squad. Yes, Fernandinho was playing as a centre-back, but still. And why was that? Because Guardiola decided to overthink his game, to overthink his tactics at the worst moment. And that worst moment was against Lyon, and they lost the game, they were eliminated, and, it was never the same. And Man City fans probably would look at that moment against Lyon in particular and think that was pure overthinking from Guardiola. Because against Tottenham, while they might have the excuse of VAR, against Liverpool were a better side in both games, really, and Jurgen Klopp managed his game really well. But against Lyon, I think it was pure overthinking from Guardiola, and some fans might have that in the back of their minds whenever they play Champions League, and when they play the Champions League quarterfinals, whomever they will face in that quarterfinal, obviously is going to be a big tie, whomever they face. because what's left in the Champions League at the moment are quite the big guns, really. They're going to be facing side the potential. They might face Dortmund, they might face Bayern, they might face PSG, they might face Real Madrid. So it could be really a big game for Man City. And again, if they overthink it in the Champions League, they're going to be doing themselves wrong again. They're going to be not qualifying, obviously, and they're going to be hurting their chances, shooting themselves in the foot for another season under Guardiola, which might be just the straw that will break the camel's back for Guardiola. Because Guardiola's future, despite the fact that he renewed his contract, is always on the edge, depending on what he does in the Champions League. He will bring them leagues. I mean, the longer he stays in Man City, the longer the leagues will be won for Man City. But the problem is always the Champions League. That's why Guardiola came to Man City, to achieve a certain level of self-respect. Because the argument still goes that Guardiola achieved what he achieved with Barcelona because the team was great, not because he was a great coach. So, probably if he does it with Man City, still people are going to be looking at the team and say, but this team is great. Like, they have De Bruyne, like De Bruyne, Gundogan, Mahrez, Sterling, Aguero. But still, it's not going to compare to the Barcelona side. And if they're going to compare to the Barcelona side, at least, do it properly. Turning back to the Premier League, really, Man City probably look like the kind of team, or the kind of side that could really, make sure or make good with the turnover at the moment, with a bit of rotation in the squad, because the rest of the Premier League, they're going to worry. After the Manchester derby, I would say on Sunday, probably they should be rotating their squad rightfully so, in terms of the players, just to make sure that they're rested and fit for the bigger of opportunities, the bigger of games in the Champions League. Of course, there is, league games are coming as well in that period of time. As for Wolves, 12th in the league, they're not exactly sitting in the prettiest position at the moment, and therefore isn't exactly that. It was good. They had 5 games unbeaten, but also among those games there were 3 draws. Because, to be fair, they're not exactly at their best at the moment, and losing someone like Daniel Pedence up front, losing someone who could give them a solution, really, someone who could create for them in that middle of central position between Adama Traore and Pedro Neto, is quite the bad situation for Wolves, who's been a side that has been so consistent for the last couple of seasons. The Premier League, of course, continues today. 3 matches are going to be played, or 4 matches are going to be played in the midweek. 3 matches today between Burnley, Leicester, Sheffield, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Man United. That's a tricky one for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. West Brom versus Everton on Thursday, as well as Fulham, Tottenham, and Liverpool versus Chelsea. That's it from me for this episode. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from the podcast episodes. Follow us on social media, site PSP on Twitter, page SitePod on Instagram, and you can listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.